Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 190th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I am Steve Wellings, as always, and I'm joined this evening by Andy Patterson. We have Ryan Scalia on the line, and also Hater Dave Lowback has jumped in just in the nick of time. We're hoping to get a few more bods jumping on throughout the evening. Going to go for about an hour and a half tonight, guys. So if you have any questions or complaints or concerns, then please let us know in the chat, and we shall try to deal with them or ignore them as we see fit. Right, just before we get going, guys, just going to give you a shout out to the subscription, iTunes, all that type of stuff. Punches from the Past is the main thing. It's going down really well at the moment. Thanks for all the positive feedback we've had. We were hoping to do a bi-weekly show, but it's ended up weekly. We have another one coming this week as well. Loads of bonus episodes being thrown in because the feedback's been so solid. So keep an ear out for that. We're going to start off with the Olympics. We've all just sat down and watched it. I had the BBC on. I'm not sure what medium you guys were using, but Joe Joyce there going against Mr. Yoka. I said on Twitter, Yoka, oh no. That was the best I could come up with, unfortunately. So, Andy, I don't know what you thought about this one. I'm not a big connoisseur of amateur boxing, but I was watching this. I thought Joyce definitely did enough in the first round. I thought he hurt the guy. He seemed to have him in trouble. So when it came out that I think he lost a split decision in the opening round, I was really surprised. And then, of course, whenever he lost that second round, which he probably did, to be fair, it was an uphill struggle. Never really got the feeling he was going to be able to pull it back round. It's so difficult over these 3-round distances to get it back. But AJ at the end was dropping the cliches, and he was very proud of Joe Joyce, and Joyce gave his all, really. He's had a good tournament overall. Just on this fight, though, itself, I mean, Stevie Bunce, I think, said that Yoka was a little bit too clever or something. Do you think that's a fair result or not?
Oh, shit.
Robberies.
See, to be honest, see, after the fight, after the first round, I seen the score, I started doing other shit. I actually really wasn't into it after that. I've been absolutely disgusted this week, actually, not just in this fight as a whole. I mean, we all know that Joyce shouldn't be in the final. I think after what happened to Conlon on, was it Tuesday or Wednesday? Maybe earlier in the week. After what happened to Vasily Levitt against Tischenko, it's really kind of switched me off for the Olympics. But for what I did see, fleetingly, the second and third rounds and stuff, there was times I did think that the Frenchman was actually timing him pretty well. I mean, Joyce is a guy who just comes forward, no head movement, no body movement, so he's going to be easy to pick off at times. His balance can be a wee bit off as well, but it just keeps coming, and he was hurting him. He was hurting him to the body. I didn't know what else he could do. I mean, he didn't knock the guy out to get a fucking count-back defeat in that Olympics just now. It's an absolute disgrace. As I say, Colin's been robbed. That Russian, we all know, shouldn't have been in the. Well, he shouldn't even have the chance to fight Conlon after he robbed the Thai fella. It's just been absolutely bullshit, and my interest really stopped after Buatsi got put out in the semi-finals. So other than that, it's been absolutely ruined the Olympics for me this week, actually, and I doubt I can try and get myself back into amateur boxing after a 5-year hiatus.
I'm fucking pissed. I'm fucking raging.
Come on, Hater. Tell us, let it spill.
All right, so we started off with we started off with the Levitt robbery, which was absolutely horrible, possibly the worst robbery of the whole tournament. We didn't talk about these yet, did we? Like the Conlon robbery as well. The Conlon robbery followed that up, and that was totally pointless since the Russian was ruled out of the fight with Gary Russell anyway, due to his cut eye. So wow, you robbed him for a bronze medal. Well, that was really useful. Then they robbed, middle of the week, they robbed Gary Antoine Russell. He actually fought what was he, a Kazakh or an Uzbekistani guy, the guy who ended up winning gold. Gary Russell started off, it was a close round. Uzbeki probably won it, but the second 2 rounds were utter domination. The guy gassed, and Gary Russell just unloaded on him. Then they somehow gave it to him. So Gary Russell was robbed of a medal totally. Shakur Stevenson, middle of the week, that was kind of a disappointment. It was a close fight that could have gone either way, so I can't really call that one a robbery. At least they couldn't rob Clarissa Shields because she dominated too convincingly. But then today, just to cap it all off, we get this Joe Joyce. I had him winning all 3 rounds. I don't see what that Frenchman did. He did fuck all. He got battered around. He got hurt, knocked down in the first, so they didn't give him the credit for that. And then obviously dominated the third as well. It was pathetic. And the worst thing about it was everybody on Twitter, like who was in the know, called it ahead of time. They knew the French was the little Aiba darling, and that they had arranged it for him to win here, to win a gold medal that he doesn't deserve. He and his fans have to know he didn't win that fight, and I can't wait for him to end up in the pros, face down on the canvas asleep.
He didn't even win a semifinal. I mean, Hrgovic beat him, and not to mention that, Mihai Nistor got completely robbed against that Jordanian guy, and Nistor would have been the one fighting Yoka in the quarterfinal, but instead Yoka gets to fight this schlub from Jordan in the quarterfinal, so he easily gets to advance to the semi. You know, Nistor would have been a really hard fight for Yoka, and they robbed him, so Yoka could fight this small fat guy from Jordan, and I mean, it should have been Hrgovic versus Joyce today, and the thing is, we all knew Joyce had no chance to get a decision. And after the first round, you know, it was clear that Joyce wasn't going to get a decision. You know, I think Levityshchenko definitely worst decision of the Olympics. Another bad one was
He got fucked up, Tischenko. Absolutely fucking ruined.
he got battered, and like Nikitin versus Michael Conlon wasn't even the worst decision involving Nikitin. I mean, it was a bad decision, but Nikitin versus Chachai Butti from Thailand was an even worse decision than that. Nikitin just walked face first into left hands all day and got the decision, you know, complete garbage, and then they robbed the guy just to give him a bronze medal. Like, it's bullshit. And Joyce just had no chance to get a decision today coming into the fight, and everybody knew that, and it's just bullshit all around.
You know, it's rigged when the one fucking judge from Turkey couldn't even give him a single round. Didn't even give him 1 or 3. Ridiculous.
And you know, in the light welterweight final today, the Uzbek versus the Gabnazarov versus the Cuban from Azerbaijan, Sotomayor. I mean, all 3 judges gave Gabnazarov the 3rd round, which doesn't make sense at all. Like, Sotomayor was just landing power shots throughout the round, and all 3 judges gave the round to the Uzbek for no reason other than to give Uzbekistan another gold medal. So it's just all bullshit all around.
Here, why the hell were Aiba no transparent when they said they sent some judges home and stuff? We didn't know who got sent home. Right? There were some judges who were basically in shady fucking scorecard fights. Then there was no one that was actually was one no involved with the Levitt fight, also involved with the Conlon fight.
Yeah, there was. I think it was the Colombian guy or the Ecuadorian guy. I can't remember, but one of the judges from the Levityshchenko fight kept judging, and then 2 of the judges from the Conlon Nikitin fight were judging the next day. So, I mean, you can figure out which ones got sent home, but which ones didn't work again. But realistically, it doesn't matter. They're all, you know, they're all corrupt. I mean, they're all fucked.
Andy, whenever this happens, a guy comes out of the Olympics or whatever, we always hear the line, "Oh, I had a pro style anyway." But regarding Joyce, you said yourself at the beginning regarding his head movement and his upper body movement, I could be on my own here, but he doesn't strike me as someone who has a perfect pro style. He looks like a guy who swings a lot of punches from the same sort of height and the same sort of angles constantly. I mean, I can see him walking onto a lot as a pro against the better guys. He doesn't strike me as someone who's going to make a seamless transition. Am I being a bit harsh there?
Don't think so, mate. I mean, I think I said to you privately actually about it. I didn't really want to tweet it out because, you know, obviously Joyce was still going through the tournament at the time, but it's just something about his style. I don't think it's going to actually suit well in the pros, as you say, against, you know, tighter opposition. I think, as you say, he could walk on into something. The one thing he's got from him, he's got toughness. He has got an engine. But what is he, a 30-year-old? I just think it's going to be a wee bit kind of late. I think. I don't know. I mean, Ryan, you've probably watched him more than amateurs than what I have. You think he's going to cut it as a pro?
I mean, I think he is, just because, I mean, time and time again. What was that?
Just because he's 30 years old now, he's getting on an edge, you know, time to try and cash in.
Yeah, he's got to move quickly, but, I mean, he should at least be European level. Like, just based on all the WSB fights, I mean, he's done really well there, and he's beaten good fighters, and, I mean, there's kind of like a notion that he's chinny because he got stopped twice in 2013, but since then he's been fine, and he's improved since then too. So I don't think it's as much of an issue. But I mean, if Yoka goes pro, he's gonna get knocked out sometime
Oh, he's stiff as
because
fuck. He's stuffing a porn star's cock, that cunt.
I mean he fought in like APB, the Aiba Pro Boxing, where it's kind of Aiba's own pro league, and I mean he got stopped by the short Turkish fat guy and less than spectacular results in that. And then in WSB, he didn't do great either. His stamina completely goes after 3 rounds, and he's chinny too. So I don't think he'll do great in the pros if he goes.
Good opponent for David Price.
Yeah, I suppose. Heavy bag to move forward. Steve, I know what you're talking about, mate. I mean, I think you and I are kind of same about Luke Campbell when he was coming through the ranks and stuff. It's just something about his style just didn't seem to kind of sit with us, and we just kind of had that opinion that no hating on the guys, just just don't think, in our opinion, just don't think they might be suited to the pro ranks. As I say, he has got the engine, but I just think he's wide open at times. I mean, if he gets you on the ropes and gets you on the inside and stuff, fine. Yeah, I mean, he's had what 4-5 fights to get to the final. I mean, he's been fighting every other couple of days, so obviously, I mean, that's got to take it out. So maybe I'm a wee bit kind of been a wee bit harsh on him. Maybe he has got better speed, better foot movement and that, because he's been fighting and trying to, basically kind of tick over and stuff over the last couple of weeks.
He's got an engine for a big guy, hasn't he? And he seems like he can hit a little bit.
But as you say, I think at mid-distance, he could be on a cropper, actually.
Well, at least like AJ, he actually deserved the gold. Unlike AJ, he actually deserved a gold medal. So there's that.
Well, I'm going to mention something about that in a minute. I'm going to move on to Conlan shortly because we were hoping to have Ben O'Connor coming on because he had a point of view to make about the Conlan fight, but we haven't been able to get him on. So in a minute, I'm going to read out the it's quite a lengthy point that he made, but I'm going to read it out anyway. But before we do, Dave Loback, regarding this Shakur Stevenson, there's talk of him turning pro now. I think Mayweather, and we were discussing it recently off air about Arum and what have you. He looks to me like a kid who's about 9 years old. He looks like someone who could do with maybe just staying amateur for a little bit longer. It's naive though to say that with all the riches on the table. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also a little bit naive to say that. I mean, maybe for the experience factor, but it's also, I think, naive to say that because if he stays amateur, he can just get robbed some more, like all these other guys are doing. Like, what's the point? Just start. Even if he's in the pros, just beating up like average guys. Just do it. It'll get him that pro experience of going like 6, 7, 8 rounds, maybe the smaller gloves. Get a feel for that. I think it's time to move up. I'm just so done with amateur boxing. Even though they changed the scoring, I mean, they've still found a way to ruin it. Anyway, I do believe, yes, he's going to turn pro. I think Floyd snatched him up. He welcomed him to the money team family. Not sure if that's a great idea, although
he's not signed.
He's not signed?
Apparently, I think there was a statement released yesterday or the day before saying that he's not signed, he's still a free agent.
Would be way better if he signed with Arum, I think, because, I mean, Arum can actually build a fighter and build a fan base.
Plus he's got a track record of doing it as well.
Yeah, Heyman and Floyd. I mean, this is partially a good thing for us fans. They don't really match make that well. They often throw their guys in deep before they're ready, or just give them a bad style, and then that leads to people like Jalen Love and Badu Jack getting upset KO losses early on, which as fans we enjoy, but it's not necessarily the best for their fighters' momentum. So yeah, I'm good with Stevenson turning pro. I also want to see Gary Russell turn pro. If anything, I was probably more impressed by him because he turned it on when he needed to against that Uzbek, and should have clearly won that fight, and then went on to medal. He's got the talent. He may have a little bit less talent than Stevenson, but I like his state of mind. Felt terrible for him when he got robbed. I mean, he said he just let his family down. The Russell family, obviously, the Gary Russell Jr.'s younger brother. And this kid actually looks like he's a fighter, unlike Gary Russell.
All in all, it's been a bit of a bad tournament for the Irish team. Obviously, with Michael O'Reilly getting sent home, not sure what's going to happen with him. Paddy Barnes, I expect, will turn professional, and probably Stephen Donnelly as well. As for the other ones, it's up in the air at the moment. Regarding Michael Conlon, obviously he's definitely turning pro. I'm just going to read this out, guys, from Ben O'Connor, and see if you have any thoughts on this. I'll try to abridge it as best as I can. But basically, Ben sent this message into the Facebook page, and he says, he thought, first of all, Conlon won the fight. That's my point. I just want to make that clear. But I saw no daylight robbery. I saw Conlon win a very close 2-1 win, where 2 of the rounds were pretty much pick-em rounds. I have 2 problems with the reaction, says Ben. The Irish commentating was an absolute joke, unbelievably biased. The bantamweight fight have so much action. It's toe-to-toe at times with loads of punches from both boxers. It's very difficult to score with punches that are landing effectively or not, especially in a close fight. I thought the Russian tucked up and was very compact and strong, blocking a lot without avoiding much. The Russian was without question the harder puncher, and I thought Conlon reacted to punches landed on him more than Nikitin did. The Irish commentators said, how can you score points for aggression? Well, the Russian blocked hundreds of shots with that compact guard. Not a lot of clean shots got through from Conlon. So if you're not scoring for aggression, how can you score what the Irish were describing as outworking? And secondly, Erislandi Savon clearly beat Anthony Joshua far more convincingly than Conlon beat Nikitin. Where are the corruption screams regarding robbery there? Oh, hang on, it's okay, we can ignore it because he got the decision. And he goes on a bit there about a few different things, talking about Roy Jones or Mayweather's Olympic defeats. But go back to London basically and see the Joshua win as a complete something that should be also addressed. He says there, #hypocrites. Does anybody have any comments on that?
He has a point. I mean, about the double standard. It's really the casual fans, though. I mean, I don't really hear it from like the UK hardcores, like Andy or some. Like, it seems like the UK hardcore fans are half the time rooting for the Brits to lose, which is a bit weird to me, but whatever. You guys do your thing. I think half the next big pod panel, we're all praying for nobody on the Great Britain team to get a medal. I don't understand why, but anyway, yeah, I mean, he's got a point with the casual fans definitely having a double standard. Oh, well, poor, what's his name, Anthony Fowler. Oh, he only lost because he had a tough draw. He should have medaled. You know, I mean, those people who said that they're gutted for their mates. They don't really understand boxing. Anthony Joshua, I mean, where he is now, he should just hand that gold medal back. I mean, obviously he won't, but it doesn't matter anymore because he's made such a good pro career for himself, even though he hasn't got the wins. He's just a pro star right now. And that's what, as a boxing fan of pro boxing, that's what I care about.
The thing was, I mean, if you look at the first round of the Conlon fight, I mean, he boxed pretty well. He was kind of doing it off the back foot. I know what Ben was saying, that there was the heavy shots getting landed from the Russian, but I think if you had Conlon winning the first round, then I think they had it across the board for the Russian, which I thought was wrong. I mean, I think me and Donnie were going at it during the week there as well, where we said, I think Donnie mentioned that the Russian probably won the first round, but Conlon was showing low IQ by going into a tear-up. Well, the problem was, he didn't get the first round, which I thought he did win by boxing pretty well and doing it off the back foot. Okay, he slipped a few shots and stuff, but he did take a few as well. He then knows he's behind, so he's got to come out in the second round and the third round and absolutely just go for it, because he knows if he just does what he was doing before, he's not going to get the fucking fight. So you're constantly second guessing yourself. Do I box? Do I go for it? What do I do? So he decides to go for it. Probably goes into the Russians' territory, into his office, so to speak, and then just basically tries to kind of shoot it out. But if he didn't have Conlon winning at least 2 of those rounds, there's something fucking far wrong.
You know, Conlon clearly outfought him in the second and third round. Like, he fought Nikitin at his own fight and outfought him in 2 and 3.
It was interesting, Ryan, the way in the second round everyone gave the round to Conlon. It almost reminded me back in the days of Sven Otka fights, the way it was that they always used to say the result was predetermined, and they used to give the opponent a set amount of rounds regardless of whether he won the rounds or not. Obviously it was complete conjecture in that, but the way they gave it Conlon across the board, it was like they were giving him the sympathy rounds to set him up for the fall type of thing. It was weird the way they did that.
Well, that's exactly what they do. I mean, you see certain fights and they specifically set up which rounds they give to guys to try and make it look like the decision is legitimate. And it happens like in every robbery.
Donnie Treller's jumped on the line now. Donnie, We're talking about Ben O'Connor there. He was discussing the Conlon fight, saying that he thought Conlon had took a few more shots than people give him credit for. I've seen Conlon spar actually a few times up in Breen's gym back in the day, and one thing he is very, very good at is in close, ducking and diving away from the shots and really riding them. And whenever we're fighting at such a fast pace in this amateur game, it can be difficult, Donny, do you think, for the judges to really work out exactly what's landing and what's not landing? And do you feel for them at all?
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, I mean, though, these people have plenty of practice. I actually, of course, I'm obviously really familiar with the judges and referees. I've hung out and grown up around them. And so, anyways, basically, if you're first of all, if you're a professional judge, you can't be an AIBA judge. But secondly, like to be at that international level, like to do the big qualifying tournaments, to do the Olympics, and things like that for AIBA, they have like these rigorous, testing procedures, and they go through all this. Sometimes people they stay in the amateur game for a long time, and they never reach that upper echelon. And I once asked somebody, I said, I was like, how do you get into that, like, that elite level of AIBA, like where you're doing the Olympics? And he says, he's like, well, it's a lot of political shit. He's like, and basically, he's like, you either have to know somebody or blow somebody. We know which one Andy would choose. No.
Well, wait a minute though. Just wait a minute. I mean, I'm just looking through something here as you're talking there, Donny, right? And I just seen here there's something like 12 dodgy decisions that were actually kind of flagged up at London, right? And I've just seen here as well, is that this must be what we're talking about the other week there. In 2011, BBC actually uncovered that there was evidence of a $9 million or 5.9 million quid worth of secret payments were paid to the World Series of Boxing, who's a sub-company to AIBA. Right? And this was apparently in return for Azerbaijan getting 2 gold medals.
Yeah, and I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, whatever happened with that? Did they ever suffer any consequences? No. I mean, really, I think that's when you see, like,
You've muted yourself, Donny.
No, can you hear me?
Yeah, on you go.
Yeah, no, I said, how, like, you sometimes hear the WBC talking about, like, how they would run amateur boxing and stuff. I think that if this stuff continues with AIBA stuff, I mean, potentially, perhaps another organization could, opt to sort of administer the Olympics or something, because, I mean, things like $9 million payoffs and for medals and stuff, and that doesn't look good. I mean, the wrestling almost got booted out of the Olympics this year, and they had to fight very hard to keep it in. Because of perceived political biases, and they thought that there was too many weight classes and all that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, wrestling kind of had some trouble. They were almost booted out of Rio, which is one of the oldest Olympic sports. And if crap like this continues to go on, it might not be long before the Olympics are targeting boxing and trying to reduce the amount of weight classes or reduce the influence of AIBA or whatever it is.
Ryan, we just had a question in actually from Rory Paddock, which I'm going to throw out to you if you don't mind. He says, can the panel think of a couple of boxers at this Olympics who didn't win a medal but feel would be worth watching out for as pros? So this is behind the upper echelon of the gold, silver, bronze. Anyone you would be interested in seeing?
Yeah, I mean, there's guys who didn't even make the Olympics that'll be good pros. I mean, some countries have, well, obviously you're only allowed one spot in each country. I mean, some countries have like tons of guys at the same weight class that are still good but don't go, or just guys who came up short in qualifying who are still good fighters. I mean, from this specific Olympics of guys who didn't medal, I'd take Eimantas Stanionis from Lithuania. It's really good. He's got a nice pro style. And then you could also take Evaldis Petrauskas from there too. I mean, he was hard done by in his first fight by the judges.
That was Lithuanian, wasn't it?
Yeah, both of them Lithuanians.
He looked okay, actually, that one you just mentioned there.
Yeah, and as far as who didn't medal, I think Joselito Velasquez from Mexico. He's quite good in WSB, light flyweight. I think he's going to do really good in the pros. I think the Indian Shiva Thapa, unfortunately, he had to fight Robesi Ramirez in his first fight, So he went out early, but I think he'd be a really good pro. He can punch, and let's see. I mean, there's a lot of them.
So
Just
do you think? Do you
go
think
ahead,
any
Ola.
current Cubans will either A, defect, or B, perhaps with the softening of the whole embargo thing between the United States and Cuba, might some of these guys maybe find their way to Florida?
I don't know. I still think it's kind of doubtful because the Cubans are taken care of better than they were in the past, especially with WSB. So it's been quite a while since, like I said this before, it's been quite a while since like a #1 Cuban defected, and I don't know. Maybe Robesi will be the one because
He's got
he's
two
the
gold
one.
medals now. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one that's like done the most talking to the media, and someone asked him about it, and he didn't completely blow it off. So maybe, and I don't know, Floyd supposedly liked him, so maybe Robesi will end up over in the U.S. somehow. But like Savon, I think a guy like him, no chance he ever defects because his uncle Felix Savon, obviously the great, he's like really all about Cuba loyalty, so I don't think Savon would ever defect.
Obviously, we've got quite a few questions coming in from people regarding Olympians turning pro, who's going to turn pro, who's not going to turn pro. Lestin Venables is looking at the more focused in on the Team GB. He's saying out of all the British Olympic boxers, most will probably turn pro, but who do you think should stay with AIBA for now? If I just run the list off here.
Yoka, Tony Yoka, definitely. The Russian guys as well.
No, this is just the British boxers, Andy. Sorry, the Team GB people he's asking. So
Anthony Fowler.
Yafai, Ali, Ashfaq, Cordina, McCormick, Kelly, Fowler, Buatsi, Okoli, Joyce, just the male boxers in particular. I mean, Fowler, obviously, Dave, yeah?
I would like to see Buatsi stay until at least in the World Championships. I think there's again, maybe it was the fact that he's been fighting so many times over a couple of days and stuff, but I think there's still a wee bit of work there still to be done. He has got an exciting style. He would probably make a good pro, but I think there's still a wee bit of work there to be done. So maybe stay amateur another year, another 18 months or whatever, and then see where he's at because. I think he would probably get picked off just now. I mean, he's just basically a come forward fighter, eh? But yes, there is still flaws there. He can be easily be outboxed, and if you give him angles, use your feet, he's definitely in bother.
I think the younger guys as well, Andy. Like I think McCormick's young, and I think Ashfaq should probably stay as well, the bantamweight.
McCormick said he wanted to stay till 2020 because he wants to go to Tokyo with his twin brother. And I think McCormick's one of their best guys.
Okay.
Anything other Olympic related? Actually, Ryan, we spoke about this off the air regarding the countback system. Liam Wynn was asking about the countback system. I was going to go into the whole spiel about using the extra judges and going back on how many buttons have been pressed, but according to this, my information is obsolete. You're telling me?
Well, I mean, back in the day, obviously, the countback with the computer scoring system was completely different, but basically nowadays the countback is if the judges end up with a draw, they basically just ask the judge, who do you think was the superior fighter? And that's basically the countback system nowadays. So
that one's that answered for Liam. And
So
who's
it's like,
jumping in?
oh no, I'm sorry. I just wanted to understand. So you're saying like, if there was an even round in there somewhere, which it seems like they don't really call, or if there was a knockdown, but some other guy won at 10-9, so it's even, and then you have the one round apiece. So you have an even fight, and so you end up with the scores reading, what is it, 29-29, but then you just kind of pick a winner?
yeah, basically.
Okay, so like
I mean, there haven't been too many
it was a draw on
scorecards.
points, but who do I think won?
Yeah, there haven't been too many draw scorecards at all in the men's. I mean, there's been a few countbacks in the women's because they have 4 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's crazy because see some of the rounds you would see as well as you were quite clearly should have been 10-8 rounds. So they're coming back as 10-9, and you'd have maybe like one judge in that fight having it 10-8. Oh, absolute fucking shambles. If there's a way to fuck it up in boxing, there's a way to do it. They will find it.
Hey, are knockdowns an automatic point deduction in the amateurs, even though it's a 10-point must system?
No, they're not.
No.
Yes, yeah, they're not. So I think that's so weird. Like, So you could put your opponent on his ass in the third round, like, you know, having lost, you know, the previous round. Maybe you need that round to win, and that may not do it for you.
Think so, Donny. Altogether then, guys, when we're coming to the close of the Olympic stuff, we're going to have a bit of professional chat and whatever anybody wants to bring up. It's going to be a shorter show as usual because we've got Errol Spence on, but I mean, that'll all be out the window by the time that people are listening to the pod on listen back on iTunes and stuff like that. It would have already happened, so we're not going to be diving into that too much. Overall, too much contention in the Olympics for it to be a golden year, to be a great year. I'm just throwing it out to the panel. Have you enjoyed
fucking
it?
shambles, mate. It's a shambles. Listen, I was discussing this last night actually with Ed Robinson. Can you imagine if you fucking went over there and the finals are scattered over like 5 days? That's complete bullshit. When I went to the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, every single final was on the Saturday, and I think London 2012 was over the base of Saturday, Sunday. Why have they got it spread out over fucking 5 days? That's a fucking joke. And then if you look at it, the stadium's actually empty the day, or no empty, but you know what I mean. There's empty seats for like what 4 or 5 finals, and the only time I think they sold it out was for when Conceição won gold. Absolute fucking joke. As I say, it's boxing. If they know how to fuck it up, they'll find it.
Anybody else?
In some ways, they've gone backwards because, I mean, the scoring and the no headgear is a huge improvement for me. Made the fights better. But in 2012 London, they were overturning certain like huge bad decisions, like the one against where Errol Spence beat that Indian dude who was in this Olympics. I can't remember his name, but he beat him, and then they gave it to the Indian, and then they overturned it after because it was obviously went the other way. And then that other one where that Azerbaijani was like rolling on the floor the entire fight, knocked down like 8 times, and the ref wouldn't stop it, and then they still gave the guy the decision. They overturned that one. This one, AIBA basically admitted their judges were shit and sent them home, and they said, oh, as per our rules, the results will stand. So why? Like, if everybody knows it's wrong, why would you not overturn that shit? Like the Conlon fight, Gary Antoine Russell's fight, the Vasily, whatever his name is, fight. Levitt, yeah.
Can I ask actually, does anybody remember if the German referee Frank is it Smarch, did he actually officiate this year?
No.
Because he was suspended for 5 days after the London 2012 for the Iran against Cuba fight in the heavyweight division.
He wasn't
wow,
there.
all 5 days. They really
5 days.
penalized him.
Apparently, what was happened here? The Iranian he disqualified the Iran fighter for holding Cuba's fighter. Despite the discipline of the referee, the disqualification of the Iran fighter stood as he received 3 warnings during the bout. At the time of disqualification, the Iranian was ahead by 2 points. He later called the ruling a set-up. What else do we have there? The Belarusian against the South Korean fighter. Thomas Stalker against the Indian boy.
Donny?
Wait, what's that? I didn't hear what the hell Andy just said.
No, Andy was going through. We were just overarching feelings on the Olympics 2016 boxing. I mean, I was saying at the beginning, Donny, I think that it's been a bit too contentious for it to be a great Olympics boxing wise. Have you enjoyed it? Any bright lights that have come out of it for you?
Yeah, I think that the that the fights have just been a lot better quality, and it's more simplified. 3 rounds, less likely to have ties and things like that. I mean, yes, there's been robberies, but there was robberies before too. That's why, they changed to this scoring system. See, basically what happens is that people get fed up with AIBA every 20 years. So, after Roy Jones got robbed of his gold medal, that was actually part of the impetus for computerized scoring. And then they realized, you know what? Now we don't like computerized scoring. Everybody who watches boxing thinks of things on a holistic sort of 10-point must system type basis, and I do think though that is what I prefer. There's always going to be some bad decisions that are going to mar every Olympics, but in general, I think that this is made for better television, and hopefully in 2020 maybe. But I don't know how it's been in the other in the UK, for instance, but I would really like to see it maybe get a little bit of primetime coverage. in maybe in future years. And I think that the entertainment that is provided in this Olympics might set that up for the future.
Yeah, I think from BBC and RTE and Ireland point of view, they do give precedence to the boxing whenever the boxing's coming on. They do give it its slot whenever it's live. So I don't think there's too much issue with that. I don't know what it's like with you guys over there.
Well, because for us, it's live at usually about 10:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
Whereas for you, I think, and then there's also the afternoon bouts, which are about on the East Coast here about 3-4 p.m., which is right in prime time for you. You know what I mean? So I think it just has to do with when it was scheduled, to take place in Brazil.
I remember listening to Richie Woodall, actually. I think it was at I forget what it was. It might have been the Worlds a couple of years back or whatever. And he was actually fucking pretty pissed that some of the scorecards were coming. This was during the computerised scoring. But this year, obviously working with the BBC and stuff, he's not actually basically calling out for what it is, cheating and fucking corruption. Obviously the BBC, well, we know what they're all about.
Say no more, Andy. Say no more. Guys,
I liked how aggressively Conlon called out Aiba and the judging. I think that we need to see more of that. It's basically like, meet me in the pros, bitch. Like, I thought Gary Russell.
Take off the vest, I agreed with that. Taking off the vest was a protest to say, fuck you, I'm turning pro. See, boss, I actually wish every single one of their top stars would turn pro and the actual empire just collapsed. It's a fucking joke.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything else, so it's like, see the statement that came out after. I mean, it took Conlon to get robbed, right? Before news came out, the judges were getting sent home and stuff. But nothing was said after the Levitt Tischenko fight. It's, I didn't really want to go on the rant anymore because Wednesday was just really, that was it for me. I just fucking raging at it, and then as time goes by and you let it go. But
well, Andy, I know that you're getting a bit annoyed about this Olympics, but Liam Wynn sent in a second question, and it's a chance to really put the rose-tinted spectacles on and go back in time a little bit before we close out on this Olympic chat, because he's asking us to pick the best Olympian. Doesn't have to necessarily be a medal winner, although I'll say it's going to be, in each weight of all time, so the best Olympian in each weight of all time. Rather than making it too uniform, it's a chance to just give a shout out to some of the guys, maybe even your favourite boxers, because Donny mentioned Roy Jones earlier. Obviously, we all know about the controversy there. Mayweather obviously had his own point of contention, but any names you want to throw out first, Andy? Any Laszlo Paps or Felix Savons?
Yeah, Teflo Stevenson, Ali, George Foreman, Frazier,
Leonard.
McTaggart,
Ray Leonard was
the Scotsman.
Dick McTaggart, yeah.
Dick McTaggart, James DeGale.
One of the greats.
He's going to prove it. He's going to prove it. Who else we got?
Mario Kindelan at lightweight.
Yeah, was it 2 or 3 Olympics he won?
Was it 2, I think?
2.
De La Hoya, the golden boy.
Tischenko.
Tischenko.
Aye, Tischenko, like.
Rigondeaux.
Yeah, we're still going to include fighters that are still active though.
Deontay Wilder. Best of all.
Michael Bennett. He didn't win a medal, I'll throw him in.
Howard Davis Jr.
Yep, good shout. Oleg
Saitov.
Excellent. Ariel Hernandez, Ryan?
Lennox Lewis.
Yeah.
I was checking something out actually. I realised that he'd actually got beat in the quarterfinals of, was it Biggs? Tillman? Was it 84?
Biggs, wasn't it?
Biggs, aye. And he came back and won it in 88. It was 88 he won it in Seoul.
Yep.
Yep.
What about any love for AJ?
No.
Legend. He's going to be the greatest the world's ever seen.
Okay.
He's going to be the greatest the world ever seen.
Ryan, what about Russia's Boris Lagutin, double gold medalist?
Yeah, for sure, for any double gold medalist. Roberto Bellato from Cuba, for sure.
Zhu Shiming, the medal table doesn't lie.
Yeah, it doesn't lie.
What about Casamayor?
Yep, good shout for him. Beat Wayne McCulloch in the 92 final in Barcelona. The same year, Michael Carruth won the gold and Oscar as well, wasn't it, 92?
Yep. So is it just got to be gold medals, aye?
No, anything. He's asking just to name the best fighter at each weight. throughout the Olympics. It doesn't necessarily have to be a medalist, but I'm just saying, for the purposes of the pod, I mean, you could just throw out a bit of love to any fighters. That's why we're just pretty much naming anyone that comes into our heads.
Clemente Russo.
Remember Pat Cowdell? He won bronze. He went a distance with Sal Sanchez. That was never any mean feat.
Yep.
At bronze, Stevenson got silver, so Stevenson's better than Floyd.
And Clemente Russo got robbed against Tischenko this year, which robbed him of a medal. He has 2 silvers.
Well, I think that's the buzzer to say that our time's up on this question, so thanks for that.
You put the buzzer on that, eh?
No, I don't know what it was, to be honest.
Sorry,
Ryan got a text message. Oh, was it Donny?
Yeah, I got a text. I'm sorry about that.
No problem. Right, nothing else Olympic related before we move on to the pros. We're going to be jacking out about 9:30 here, guys, so if anybody has
A wee shout out to Hassan Boy Duzmatsov. He actually turned pro with Rodney Bierman in South Africa.
Oh, right, okay.
Interesting to see how... I wonder if they'll maybe put him in with Hecky Butler in his first pro fight.
First pro fight?
Yeah, I know.
I could see it down the line. I mean, I like Rodney Berman. Like, I think out of all the promoters, he's one of the most, like, well-intentioned promoters, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, try sticking out.
Obviously, being out of South Africa, you know, it's kind of hard for him to be a major player, but with what he has, I think he tries to do some pretty good things, and I mean, that's a great signing to get Dusmatov. I thought Dusmatov would have just stayed amateur because, I mean, he gets 800,000 euros for the gold medal. That's what they pay in Uzbekistan, and obviously that's crazy money, and their guys are really well taken care of. But now that he's gone pro, I mean, that opens up some really nice potential matchups down there.
Wait, did you say that Uzbekistan paid their gold medalist 800,000 euros?
Yeah, that's how much they pay.
Huh.
Vasily Levitt, he actually got $250,000 for winning as if he won the gold medal. He was actually meant to get 150,000 because he got silver, but because he actually won the fucking fight, or should have got the decision, he got the full whack.
They'll pay you if you win, but if you lose, then they'll break your legs and drop you off a cliff.
I believe, Dave, Tommy Allen is now on the flight over to Uzbekistan, so look out for Tomasz Alanchenko at the next Olympics.
Well, you know what the thing is with when we were talking about this corruption is that what really pisses me off is that it affects people's actual lives because now it's like, well, if they had gotten a medal that if somebody had gotten a medal that they should have gotten, okay, if they had turned pro, now they would turn pro with more fanfare, they would get a much bigger signing bonus with whatever promoter that they're with or whatever like that, and they're faced with the prospect of potentially staying in the amateurs for one more Olympic cycle, at which point they could get to the Olympics again, maybe substantially improve themselves as a fighter over the course of those next 4 years, but then they end up getting fucked again, right? At the next Olympic Games, and now they've made a 4-year investment, and they have nothing to show for it again. So it's like it really requires so much of an investment of your time, and one of these decisions can actually cost you a lot of money in terms of and a lot of potential attention even before you begin.
He's been muted himself. Well done, Donny. Oh, he dropped off the chat.
He dropped off the chat. Right, let's rally through a few things. We'll put the Olympic chat to one side. Hey to Dave Loback. I don't know if you have any opinions on this one. Demetrius Andrade is travelling to Germany to fight Jack Kulkai. So one of these WBA fake belts. I believe Soylan's won the purse bids. And Showtime are going to be showing this one. Do you think it's a good move for Andrade?
No. Who the hell is that? I never heard of the guy.
Jack Kulkai?
No, I never heard of him. Never seen him fight. Is he any good?
He's okay.
Well, I assume Andrade's going to pretty much dominate this fight.
Well, it says it off. Andre's going all the way to Germany to fight him.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that he's willing to travel. I mean, unfortunately, Andrade's one of the most talented guys, probably the most talented guy at 154. In fact, I think he could do well at middleweight, too. I think him versus Golovkin's an interesting fight, but he's in the kind of who needs him club. Very tricky guy. He's going to be hell for anybody, so it's going to be tough for him to get fights. Partially his own fault due to that year or whatever he spent screwing around with his promoter, or, I don't know, demanding more money. He's active again now, though. He just got to keep active and keep winning. At least Showtime's showing it, but over in Germany, I don't know if this is the right way to go about getting exposure and getting the attention he wants to demand these bigger names fight him.
Yeah, I believe Andrade is back with the original promoter he was having the beef with. I'm not sure how much this is going to do for his standing. Showtime is showing it, which is good. Kulkai, I think Andrade definitely has the beating of Kulkai. I can't see him losing that one. Kulkai is one of these guys, Andy, I believe, isn't he of Venezuelan or Ecuadorian descent? He's been built up nicely over in Germany, not much of a punch. I think he beat Dennis Hogan a few fights ago, the Australian-based Irish fighter. No other real names on his record, which I've actually just brought up now. Morris Webber, John Carlos Prado, he beat in his last fight. Never even heard of this guy, even though he's 31-1. And a win over Mark Thompson, former British level operator early on in his career. This is all set up for Andrade. I don't know if you're interested in this one, Andy, but I can't see Andrade losing to Kulkai.
No, I can't see either, mate. I mean, I know Kulkai hung around the amateur scene for a fair bit. I think he won silver or something. He got beat off one of the, it might have been Kazakhstan or maybe Azerbaijan or something like that. But as I say, I've watched a couple of his fights. Nothing really impresses me about him. As I say, he's probably more kind of class as your kind of classic stand-up boxer. Again, typical German immigrant fighter, I suppose. You know, they'll come in. I mean, it seems to be all these German fighters seem to be immigrants and stuff like Marco Hook, or come from immigrant families and stuff. But yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, I would imagine we were giving Andrade the big push. I suppose it was good to see him back fighting a couple of months back and stuff. But you would imagine he's going to have too much for Kulkai.
Ryan, this is one of those type of questions I love, given Errol Spence will have already fought by the time this is going out. Sam Kenny sent in a question, though, which I'd like you to deal with. You can assume Spence is going to beat Bundu, but Spence versus Crawford in 12 months' time, who wins? You want to give an opinion on that one?
That's tough. I mean, Spence is so powerful and great at cutting guys down, and Crawford hasn't fought at 147 yet. But Crawford is a big guy for 140, so it's really tough to see how it goes. I mean, I think I'd slightly favor Spence right now, just the bigger guy and probably the more powerful guy. I mean, Crawford was hurt by Gamboa, so I mean, he hasn't fought at 147 yet, and I just think Spence would have the edge on him because of all those factors.
Talking of Yuriorkis Gamboa, is there any mileage? It seems to be gaining traction, this Gamboa versus Cotto fight. Any updates on that? I mean, it's such a...
No, it's
just bullshit. Bullshit. I mean, if that fight happens, by the way, fuck boxing and fuck it for good. Cotto, well, you can't give that cunt a redneck with a blowtorch, but you can give it a good fucking try anyway. That would be an absolute disgrace if that fight happens. Fuck Cotto.
It would be pretty funny if Gamboa won, though. Like, imagine that. Be a pretty big achievement.
Huge achievement. Could you see him getting the win, Dave?
Like a guy, he started at 122 and he beats at one time lineal middleweight champion. I mean, it's like
tell you what, if Gamboa is going to win this fight, he needs to go back to those Florida clinics again, actually, and fucking really jack it up big style.
Thanks for that, Andy. Right. Question from Owen Hickey, guys. This is quite a good one. With Maidana retiring and we're all reminiscing on the Broner win, what do you lads consider the most satisfying wins in boxing? I have to say that's my most satisfying win. What about you guys? I think Press Pass was onto this all over this one, actually. He thought Zlatikanin versus Ricky Burns. Any other you want to throw in the hat?
Chino.
How could that be satisfying? Remember, Box Nation lost the feed halfway through, or Sky or whoever was showing it lost.
Sky actually. Aye.
It was pathetic. I would say Tyson versus Vlad. Very vindicating.
Tyson Douglas.
Was that satisfying? Was that satisfying to you, Andy?
It was, aye. Because Douglas really wasn't. I wouldn't say his heart wasn't in it, but Douglas really had to be coaxed into being a fighter. Actually, I think just private circumstances at that time going into the fight really just kind of made him hard as fucking nails for one fight only, because he became an absolute mess after that. I think he was something like 400 pounds at his peak, like peak eating, because he did bad with diabetes and that he was fucked after winning that title. Couldn't handle it. Couldn't handle the pressure.
The HBO Legendary Nights does a great job just talking about the before, during, and after of that fight.
Is that the Poundland version of Punches from the Past, Dave, you're referencing there?
Yeah, it's the poor man's Punches from the Past.
Ryan, what about you? What's your the most satisfying victory in boxing that's really, really pleased you?
Well, I think recently it's probably Frampton versus Quigg, just off all the bullshit that Quigg and the Colts
Joe Gallagher.
Before the fight. Yeah, him too.
That was incredibly dissatisfying for me. I didn't really have a horse in that race, but it was a hideous fight. I thought about halfway through I was thinking Quigg should just retire if he's going to fight like this.
I think he has retired, hasn't he?
Chino.
Legos or whatever.
You're like me, Andy. It's Madonna boner. That just satisfied me no end. It always cheers you up to stick that on.
Yeah, I know when you're feeling down, with dark clouds hanging over you, just stick on Chino against Cloner. Age-ridden. Did we discuss it last week? We did, because last week he retired.
Yeah.
Fucking tremendous. Just kind of, how we felt that Sunday morning walking about bromance and just complete strangers,
Right, guys. Question in on the Facebook page from Don McNamara. He says, in a worst case scenario, who would be the worst person to fight against, the worst referee to have, and the worst person to have in the corner? So if you're standing in the ring, you've got your gloves on, your shorts on, you're bricking it a little bit, you're looking across at your opponent, you've got someone in your own corner, and you've got the referee. What is the worst case scenario? He's saying Orlando Salido as the opponent, Norman Stone in his corner, and Lawrence Cole as the referee.
Ian John Lewis is the referee, because you just know if you get wobbled, you're getting stopped.
Yeah. And what about in your corner? Joe, because he's told you to sit tight for the first 6 rounds?
Teddy Atlas, because I'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
What about Steve Schmoger as the referee? Say if you've got Kovalev over opposite you, and you see Schmoger in the other corner, you're thinking to yourself, I ain't getting out of this alive.
I would turn to my wife at ringside and say, did I get my life insurance fixed?
Dave, what about you?
Sorry, what was the question? I was engaging in the chat.
Yeah, thanks for engaging in the chat, Dave. Yeah, if it's your big fight, your big chance, your world championship opportunity. Who is the worst opponent you could be in with, and the worst referee you could have refereeing the fight, and the worst person in your corner? Now, our contributor Don McNamara said he wouldn't like to see Salido against him. He wouldn't like to have Lawrence Cole as the ref, and he wouldn't want Norman Stone in his corner. What about you?
I was going to say Norman Stone. Tim Lane. I don't want to be kept in the cage. Worst opponent. Somebody tricky. Ruin Wrong. Or I don't know, someone even like actually good, like Pernell Whitaker.
Jungkook Chang, I think they'd be fighting that wee guy. He could fight.
Lawrence Cole, terrible ref, who will just let me get felled.
You just know, actually. I mean, okay, let's add a wee bit more in that question. What about the 3 judges? You walk into the ring, you're pumped to fuck. You're just, just kind of like roaming about the ring and that, and you fucking look at the judges and you look at you go, oh fuck. There's no way I'm going to get a win tonight. So the first one would need to be, what do you call her? CJ Ross.
CJ Ross.
The Adelaide Bird.
Yeah. Don Trelli, you're not getting a fair shake with him.
Aye.
Jerry Roth is terrible. And
Robert Hoyle.
Yep, Robert Hoyle, recently one of the worst.
Right. You mentioned Ian John Lewis, didn't you, Andy?
Aye, definitely. I mean, you would just fear. Honest to God, you could trip just going into the ring and maybe stub your toe and you're like, that fights off.
Or Terry O'Connor, you'd be afraid in case he slipped in a bit of ring water and fell on top of you.
I'm telling you, see, he is sickening. He is obese. I mean, anytime you see some water, I mean, I was at a fight in Germany actually, and it was water in the middle of the ring mat or something, and he'd call for the toilet to be brought in, and he was that fucking fat. The fat cunt couldn't bend over to fucking wipe it up. So, okay, mate, dude. He just threw the towel down the flare and used his foot and used it as a kind of like leg extension, just a mop to kind of wipe it up. What a fucking fat, pathetic mess.
No, but if you're British, I mean, you want him on your side. He'll help carry you back to your stool if you're hurt.
Aye, true. That's another home cooking. What about my smoker actually? It was slap. Who was it?
It was that Hopkins' opponent. Was it Murat?
Murat, that was the one. He was getting kind of dodgy after the bell and that, so he gets him by the fucking face and just slaps him. Fucking you down.
And then he was like celebrating with Hopkins after.
He was,
Well done, mate. You're okay, brother. Don't worry about it.
he
And
was
he goes
brilliant.
to America and lets Roy Jones gets fucking killed off Lebedev.
He was brilliant recently as well in the Ramirez Lebedev fight, wasn't he? Ramirez was like desperately trying to quit, and Smoker was like just sort of urging him to carry on.
But then again, what was that fight? Was it Ray Olivares against one guy? I forget the guy. Was it Augustus? Remember the guy he was contorting his face. You could see he was holding his head and stuff, and the fighter could see it as well that he was in bother, and he didn't want to punch him to the head, so he just started jabbing to the body. I think it took Smoker a good 30 seconds actually before he kind of realised what was actually going on.
Yeah.
Ray Olivares against who the fuck? I'm sure it was Augustus.
Can't mind, Andy.
Worth a watch anyway.
So I tell you a fight Terry O'Connor could be brought in for. Tony Bellew against BJ Flores, which has also been announced. Now Flores was talking smack on Twitter about a month or so ago, trying to pump up the fight, and I can't remember who it was who retweeted and said, "Oh yeah, wouldn't we like to see this?" But I mean, we really wouldn't like to see this, would we? Is anybody excited about Bellew against Flores?
I hope John Lewis refs it.
Anybody? It's fucking
Tony.
grotesque.
Tony's
Aye.
excited to get a knockout and a payday.
I think we'll knock him out.
Yeah.
I mean, Flores may be shit, but has he been stopped before?
Who's he fought to stop him?
Yeah, this is true. Shumanov, Danny Green,
I mean, Shumanov just
the Green Machine.
ran away, and Flores followed him around like an idiot. And
He has actually fought, I'm just looking through the news, he's actually fought not one cunt worth a stitch.
Wasn't he drafted in to do the commentary or the colour commentary for the Hay? Was it the first Hay fight, the Demori fight?
yeah, he was on commentary for that.
Oh, he lost to Danny Green. That's right. I'd forgotten about that one. Then his fight against Shumanov was the famous what is it? How do I cut off the ring statement?
Yeah.
That's crazy. He shouldn't be anywhere near Bellew. I mean, as much as we slag Bellew off, and I'll give Bellew his props, I already did on the previous pod for the Maccabee fight, but he shouldn't be anywhere near any sort of world titles. Give Tony his due, give him his payday, but I can see him knocking Flores out. This is a pretty poor fight by my estimation. Saying
Yeah.
he does get past him, I mean, what are you looking at? Like, sorry, Andy, go ahead.
No, I was just looking at the undercard now, mate. Remember we had this fight on the prediction league. Remember the French guy Karim Gaufrey against Ryan Farag.
Yes,
And
yes.
I was the only person that picked the winner. He knocked him out. I've just seen Farag's actually now fighting for the British title against Ryan Burnett. That's a fucking joke. How do you go for fighting for the European title, do you then go and fight for the British?
He's had no fights in between.
He's not no fights in between. I say the same about Tommy Coyle. I think he got beat. I forget who he got knocked off, and then was it Luke Campbell, I think it was, and then it's like an 8-rounder comeback fight, and he was fighting for the British title after that.
Dearth of talent down at bantamweight, there was nothing.
Yeah.
Last week we threw a question out onto the Facebook page and also onto Twitter as well. It was quite well responded. When I can't remember which fight I'd been watching, but it was just completely putrid. And I asked the Facebook followers what was the worst fight you've ever seen, and we had quite a few responses on this one. A few people throwing in the likes of Chisora, Nascimento, I think that was Press Pass Paul, Green Briggs. We've mentioned that many times on here. Bellew cleverly too. A lot of love for that. Bellew, Chilemba, Fury, Chisora, Hay, Harrison. Any Gavin McDonnell fight. My personal favourite, Craig Mastra Totaro, actually put this one up. Lee Haskins against Don Broadhurst.
Oh.
I don't know if you boys have had a chance to think about this. I know the Holyfield John Maurice fights are pretty bad, but while we're on the subject, I mean, what's the worst fight that you can remember?
Vladimir Klitschko against Sultan Ibragimov.
Okay.
That was dire.
Pac-Man Mayweather.
Probably Andre Ward's career, apart from Carol Froch.
There was one.
I'll tell you, it was a terrible fight.
Edner Cherry
Go ahead,
versus Edner Cherry versus Lydell Rhodes or something. It was on PBC.
Oh, I remember people mentioning that a couple of months back.
It was just like non-stop clinching. It was awful.
Like another fight that was mentioned, Lennox Lewis against Henry Akinwande, or Scott Welch against Henry Akinwande. I don't know if any of you guys listening, or I'm sure you guys in the panel remember Akinwande. He was hard to watch sometimes.
I'm still racking my brain.
Beaker versus Anthony Durrell. Andre Ward versus anyone he's ever been in with, says James O'Shea.
Beaker against Ward was especially fucking awful.
Ben O'Connor says, can we count the whole of 2015?
And 16 so far. Well, most of it anyway. Take out the
Tim
month of
Atherton.
May.
Tim Atherton, Rigo versus Life. Any Johnny Nelson fight, says Ben Ayres.
Johnny Nelson's dog.
Value Cleverly too.
Yeah, that was a particularly popular one. Calzaghe versus the Egyptian. That was Kabari Salem.
Aye, aye.
Dan Raphael versus the line at the buffet table.
Dan Raphael versus Billy George Saunders' ma.
Orlando Solis against pretty much everybody.
Eubank Jetta.
Oh, Liam Smith against John Thompson and that other guy.
Oh yeah, that's right. One of the worst ones I ever saw. I'm pretty sure nobody here will have watched it. Well, maybe Ryan will have done. I remember many years ago when I was working night shift, they used to show the old ESPN boxing. This was about 10, 15 years ago. And a fight came on between Ross the Boss Thompson, a former opponent of Fernando Vargas's, against a journeyman called Sam Reese. Now, I'll urge you not to go and look this one up because it really was one of the worst fights I have ever seen in my life. It was just half a punch, clinch. Half a punch for about 8 rounds or 10 rounds, however long it lasted. That was up there with the Haskins. But I think the thing is with Haskins, though, now that I mention him, his style goes one of two ways. He either knocks you out spectacularly or he's in a completely terrible, offensive on the eyes clinch fest. Like our mate Rune Wrong sometimes can be involved in those type of fights, although Paul Webb wouldn't like to.
Fury against Vlad was a pretty poor fight.
Yeah.
Fury against Chisora rematch.
Yep, that was bad one.
Crap. I mean, I think Fury fought southpaw the entire fight and just basically jabbed Chisora to death until his face was like a fucking car crash. There was one more. Vladimir against Povetkin.
Any Martin J. Ward fight.
Yeah. Bradley Skeet for a wee while actually was quite boring to watch, but he picked it up against it in that Eggington fight, and I really did like that performance actually. So
yeah, he improved, didn't he? He really boxed well against Eggington. He was called Bradley Sleep early on in his career, and he had a few poor performances, but that one wasn't one of them.
Holyfield against Valuev, and then Holyfield against that fucking. That Danish guy, was it Brian Nielsen?
Yeah, I think, wasn't he undefeated at the time?
He quit in that fight or something.
The guy was like, he looked like one of those mall Santa Clauses without the costume.
Didn't he fight Mike Tyson and Calzaghe fought Will McIntyre on the undercard? In Denmark. Tyson went to Denmark.
Aye, that's right, aye. So I remember Enzo giving a wee story actually, tried to get a picture with Tyson and Joe, and Tyson was smiling in the picture, so Enzo bowled his brass, says, "Smile, you cunt."
Right, Alex Morris has jumped on the line. Alex, while you're on here, you can be the king of hate sometimes. Any bad fights that have really annoyed you over the years? What's the worst boxing match you've ever witnessed?
How are we defining bad? Just like bad to watch, or just
bad all round, mate.
A few of Devon Alexander's spring to mind.
Oh, Tim Bradley.
Yeah, Devon Alexander, Tim Bradley. I mean, they hyped that up to the nines. Really, they were bigging that up as I think even Max Kellerman or someone or whoever it was. I think it might have been him. Said it could have been like a fight of the year contender and all that beforehand. And then afterwards, it was absolute fucking dross, and Alexander completely bitched out of it, complaining of the tiniest cut you'll ever see a boxer suffer.
It burns.
Cuts look worse. Yeah, it burns.
Notice something interesting. We're all naming fights out of like the last 10, 15 years. Like, what about history? Have there been like really shit fights from
historical ones
80s,
usually
70s, 60s?
They usually get forgotten about, don't they? I mean, you don't go back and watch, the really shit fights from 30 years ago on YouTube, really.
Yeah, you start filtering them out, don't you, as time goes on?
You've got that fight for Argentina I mentioned a couple of weeks back, that Juan Martin Colga against Ednar Gonzalez, the first fight in Argentina. You need to go and watch that. That was the most bent fucking fight you'll ever see. And there was one fight, Hassim Rahman against, I forget his name. Dave Lee sent it to me, actually.
Oh, yes, I saw that, Andy. Yes, what was the opponent's name now? I can't remember.
He fucking dived, the cheating bastard, man. Honestly, you want to see this? This was horrific. He did. He didn't. He should have. If there's a prime case to get your purse withheld, that was the one. Definitely, that was the one.
I'm gonna look that one up. Alex, you've jumped on. Is it the amateur thing you want to vent your fury at? Is it Joe Joyce?
I just jumped on to see how things were going. I mean, I vented my fury a little while ago. I probably should have jumped on there, and I was absolutely fucking raging after the, you know, I've seen a few people trying to argue that it wasn't as egregious as some people making out, like particularly me. I've been making out as an absolute horrible robbery. Probably not as bad as robbery as the semi-final bout that Yoko was involved in with Hergovich or Tischenko Levitt. Those were worse robberies, I think, in the games, but still, I thought it was pretty fucking obvious that Joyce won that. The bodywork alone was just excellent from Joyce throughout that entire fight. I thought that he had the right plan. He knew that Yoko, I think, was perhaps carrying a bit of an injury. They mentioned the old right ankle, I think, and the way he was going to really just try to bring him down was the bodywork, and Joyce has done excellent so far in the games with that. And it was spoken about way beforehand that Yoko was destined almost to win gold, and just through robbery alone, and he did that. And if people bet on him, fair play. You've made a few quid off of the backs of these robbing cunts.
Pintor against Zarata. Tony against Taibiri. Remember that one?
Oh yes, I do. Yeah, and the Hasim Rahman one was the 2004 thriller in Dover, Delaware, against Mario Corley, I think was the one that we were talking about, Andy, that Dave Lee put up.
Yeah. Courtney Button against Emmanuel Augustus. What about Briggs against Foreman? Sturm against Oscar.
That was a prime Shannon Briggs too, and he got totally schooled by a shot Foreman.
Right, you want an old school one? What about Joe Lewis, Jersey Joe Walcott?
I'll take your word for that one. I can't exactly remember it now.
The first fight, yeah.
Yep. Ramirez against Whittaker, the first fight also. Of course, Bradley Pacquiao.
Sticking to the heavyweight theme, actually, because mentioning Joe Lewis and all them. Someone in the similar vein to Joe Lewis, Anthony Joshua. You probably know a bit all about him, Alex. He's making his next defense on November the 26th. Now, assuming that Joe Joyce isn't going to do a Pete Rademacher, who do you think is Joshua's opponent going to be? Is Vermain Stavern still the name being floated about?
Well, I've heard that he's been the name that's been floated about for ages, hasn't he? But I'm getting maybe a sneaking suspicion, but that Jarrell Miller fought this weekend, didn't he? On Friday.
£300.
Yeah, like weighing like a fucking rhino, and you see the fucking size of him is ridiculous. But I think that the attention Sky have been paying him. I mean, yeah, the guy was obviously fighting on the Friday, but they were really bigging him up in the week. The day before he's this 300-pound monster. Then after the fight, they're giving him attention as well, all for beating fucking
Fred Cassie.
Fred Cassie. I mean, Fred Cassie's a good win. It's a better win than fucking Joshua's got on his record.
He made him quit too. That's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good performance, but Sky don't give a fuck about any other boxers apart from their own. Why are they giving this guy attention unless there's ulterior motive? And I think the ulterior motive is possibly he might be fighting Joshua. Because there's the Showtime angle as well. They want to get Joshua. Obviously, he's got the Showtime deal, and I think Jarrell Miller obviously just fought on Showtime. So I think maybe he could be an option. But Stavern seems safe.
Well, Stavern got ordered to fight Povetkin by the WBC for interim title stuff because Wilder is going to be out for a bit, so Povetkin probably fights Stavern. I think Joshua's opponent might be Pulev, maybe, because Pulev was supposed to fight in Bulgaria next month, but that's gone quiet, so I think maybe they're just moving him to the Joshua fight.
The Furies, Peter Fury mentions that they were trying to get Pulev for Huey, but then again that went quiet because apparently Pulev had another fight lined up. Maybe it is, Anthony Joshua gave him a better offer.
Aren't they talking about Huey Fury fighting Andy Ruiz now?
Yeah.
What was the battle that we said? Diabetes versus scurvy or something?
That was somebody said that. I forget who.
That's not a bad fight. The thing is about Huey, we've been waiting for him to step up. We've been told he's ready to step up. And then when opportunities against the likes of Dillian White came along, he didn't step up. So that's a bit of a black mark in my book. But if he's fighting Andy Ruiz, I could think of worse fights for Huey than that one. Anybody disagree?
Is Dillian White a step up?
Compared to what he's been fighting, well, I mean, yeah, he's fought Cassie.
I would say so.
Exactly. Cassie's better than Dillian, surely.
Well, a step along the same sort of level of road, maybe.
A step up in the sense of getting his name out there, maybe.
Yeah.
For the British public, obviously Dillian White's a bigger name over here than Fred Cassie is. So.
But one heavyweight who seems to be all up in the air at the moment is Luis Ortiz. He wasn't it? It was originally Ustinov, then wasn't it Dimitrenko or something? He was talking about fighting. Some promoters won the purse bids. He wants out from Golden Boy. I'm assuming he's going to be looking to go over the side of the road to PBC. But why is Ortiz not fighting? Does anybody have any inside info?
Not any inside info, but I just think, he's probably had a fallout with Golden Boy. I really don't know what the story is, but I think there's been some sort of kind of falling out with Golden Boy by the looks of it.
Yeah, that seems to be what the issue is. Like you said, you answered it yourself. He might be looking to go across the street and maybe looking for, because he's seeing, I don't know, a few of the heavyweights on Showtime. Obviously, Deontay Wilder or Joshua there as well. And, I think that's where the bigger fights will be for him, I think.
I think regarding the IBF situation, Pulev is a good shout actually that Ryan made, and then I still want to see Joshua fight Parker at some point, regardless of how mismatched some people seem to think it is. I think that's not a bad fight. And Pulev, I'd rather see Pulev than Stiverne, to be honest. Pulev's very basic, Alex, but at least it's a name and it's someone who's going to give Joshua something a little bit different, even if it is only jab right hand.
Oh, Pulev's far superior to Stiverne, I think. I think he like you said, he definitely offers a lot more. He's a bit more basic, but I think he's actually going to fight and he's actually going to come to win. We saw Stiverne in that Wilder fight. It's almost unforgivable what the performance he put in there against Wilder it was just utterly embarrassing. So Pulev certainly I would love to see, and obviously the Parker fight's going to happen no matter what. So. Yeah, that's going to if that's next or whether that's after maybe Pulev, then I'm fine with it.
The final thing on my list, guys, before we've exhausted the conversation, what time are we at? It's 9:20, so we said 9:30 anyway, so that's fine. The final thing I've got to discuss, which we haven't discussed, is the Golovkin-Brook. They had this weigh-in thing. Brook has come in heavier, but in better shape than a lot of people thought. Has anybody got any comments on that? Anybody changed their mind, or anyone think that Brook's going to get to the 7th instead of the 6th or something? I mean, he looked okay actually, to be honest, but not too much of a game changer.
I think that was market ploy, purely a market ploy, just to make it look out that Brook isn't some sort of small guy, that he's actually bigger than Golovkin, and the casuals are going to buy into it thinking that this guy's actually huge and he stands a chance. I think Brook is completely there for a cash out, and he'll roll over as soon as it gets bad.
Yeah, I'm thinking I won't be surprised if he quits on a body shot in round 1. We'll know very early on whether he's there to within the first 2 rounds. I'd say we'll know early on whether he's there to try or whether he's there for the money.
As soon as he feels the power, he's going to fuck off. I'm not even going to watch any build up to this fight. I've been refusing to watch any of the interviews on IFL. That shit. The fight is horrible. Really is horrible.
But it will have a probably amusing ending at least.
At least we'll probably get a knockout, but to what expense?
Just time, really wasting everyone's time.
Not so sure real quick, guys. I remember before saying against Sean Porter, I thought we were doing the preview show, and I remember saying that whenever Porter put the pressure on him, I thought Brook would start to fold, and I could see Porter getting to him at the end of the fight and winning a wide decision or maybe stopping him late. I remember it was Donny who corrected me, pulled me up on that. He said that he thought Brook was tougher than people gave him credit for, and he would stand in the trenches and go. So I think he'll stick around and take his beating.
Yeah, beating from Golovkin's a bit different than a beating from like Carson Jones, though, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, Brook's apparently got experience getting beaten in the ring anyway, so.
I think that the whole weight thing is it's further evidence to me that this is a cash out, because I don't think Brook can really make 147 comfortably anymore. Certainly not to be in any shape to fight like a good fighter like Errol Spence. I think he'd be in trouble if he cut down the weight to 147 and tried to fight Spence. And maybe that's why he's just saying, well, look, I'm daring to be great because I don't really have much other choice.
Something came into my mind, actually. Hook against Mackenzie, isn't that coming up soon over the next few weeks, or is that further on into September, October time?
It's all September, isn't it? It's a big month. Hopefully.
I see Mackenzie had 2 fights arranged. One was for against Hook, and the other one was for a British title fight, I think.
He's not going to defend it, is he? I thought he was going to drop it and isn't Tommy McCarthy up to fight Askin, or was that an eliminate? I think that might be an eliminator, and they're expecting Mackenzie to maybe drop the British.
Right.
I think they're just hedging their bets maybe in case something falls through. But the Hook fight will be first and foremost in his mind. Hook showed signs of slipping recently, obviously, as we've all seen that with our own eyes. And Mackenzie just seems to be rolling on forever. I remember him knocking out Courtney Fry on Channel 5 in about 2001. And he just seems to be this guy. And if he hits you, he can hurt you now. He is a big old lump of a fellow, and he's one of the nicer guys as well, Mackenzie. So I'm actually looking forward to that one.
Yep. Huck's definitely past prime, mate. Well, we saw that the Glacki fight, but we saw it well before then anyway. I think it was during the first Arslan fight as well, and then obviously the third fight with Afalabi. Definitely had seen better days.
Right, Alex, final word to you then, unless anybody else has anything to add. Going just back, doing full circle back to the Olympics, we haven't had a chance to hear how you thought the whole tournament as a whole has gone, and is there anyone as a standout that you are looking forward to turning pro? Anyone you think is going to make any waves in the professional ranks, or who personally impressed you?
Yeah, it's hard to have a good taste about the Olympics overall because of a lot of the the dodgy decisions rearing their ugly head in the robberies and all of that nonsense. But no, I think that a lot of the fights were it was a lot more entertaining to watch this time around. I'll give it that. It was a lot more engaging and a lot more dramatic, and largely again due to the rule change and the taking off the head guards, because you can see the emotion, you can see the the desperation and the passion involved from the fighters going into each bout and into each round, and what they know they've got to do to win, or excuse me, they know they're getting robbed, and they really got to try and win that final round or try and get the knockout. They actually really try and go for it, and it makes it a lot more engaging, I think. I forgot the point I was going to make then, but no, yeah, it's a lot better, and I think, but it's still obviously got its flaws. I mean, 10 point must system obviously still has its flaws, and over a 3-round fight, it does make it, or you just win your 2 rounds and you can run for the 3rd round, and it's a bit paltry like that. But overall, I think it's better, more entertaining to watch. I hope too many people haven't been completely turned off by the disgusting scores and the corruption as a whole. People should maybe try and tune into other amateur boxing. World Series of Boxing has always been entertaining. Whenever I've tuned in, I've not tuned in as much as I probably should have done, but maybe some other people will give it a go. I'm probably not, considering that final bout we watched, but. No, I mean, as for boxers going into the pro ranks, just the Cubans, all the Cubans really. There's 1 or 2 that are a bit tad too boring, but it's always be good to see them finally turn over and just fucking destroy cunts in the pro ranks.
Alex is going to be seen floating around Miami over the next few weeks in a little kayak, trying to encourage some of these boyos on board. Excellent stuff, guys. I think we'll leave it there. We had a tweet in from MC Ketch, actually, who listens regularly. He said Bernard Dunn fought a Dane once, which was a dreadful fight, and Bellew Chilemba was also awful. Was that? I think the Bernard Dunn fight that he's maybe thinking of was a European title defence against Rainer Wallstad, who I think was a Norwegian, but it doesn't matter what nationality he was. He's quite right. That was a terrible fight. Guys, we're going to jump on out of here. Pretty short week. There's not really too much going on at this time of the year, as you all know. It's closed season. Things will get going again in and around September, and we'll be back up to full strength. But we had Alex jumping on there, which was fantastic to hear him. Also Andy Patterson, as always, and Dave Loback, Ryan Scallier. We weren't able to get Ben O'Connor on this time, but we'll try and get him on again. And as always, Don Trella jumps on and gives us his opinion on the wonderful world of boxing. Everyone asking about the Boxing Asylum merchandise last week. It's going really well at the moment. The David Lee snoods are coming in as well, 100% polyester, so you want to get yourself one of them to keep you warm through
Jason
these
Gavin won as well, mate. Woo!
cold winter months. Jason Gavin getting a bit of love there, Andy. What's that all about?
Yeah, mate. We're watching a lot about Flair. I think it's Tommy being the ex-wrestling fan and Kurt obviously pushing it as well. So, in homage to, Eddie, it's a bit of banter as well. So, we'll give one to Eddie.
Puzzle.
We'll give one to Eddie as well, I think. Because they brought banter. We'll put Eddie's face in the back and says, I remember Eddie actually saying that they put Jason Gavin in there, even though he was injured, they had their operation 4 weeks ago or whatever it was and stuff like that, he brought banter. Woo!
What are you saying, Dave?
I just said he's a defensive puzzle.
The Rubik's Cube of boxing.
Well, according to Eddie, and we know Eddie's never wrong.
Hardcore helmets.
We must be the hardcore helmets for coming on at this hour. But yeah, don't forget to listen to Punches from the Past, guys. We really enjoy doing it. There's another one coming up this week. I think you're going to enjoy it as well. So nothing to add, Andy. We've done the closing credits here.
No, all good, mate.
Excellent stuff, guys. Enjoy the Errol Spence fight. We shall be back again next week, so we'll speak to you all then. Thank you. See you later.